Hey, Texas wine lovers. Welcome back to We Know Texas Vino. This is Will.
Hey, guys. This is Michael.
And welcome back. We are now sitting on episode 14.
So 14 already. I can't believe it's already episode 14. It's gone really fast. But welcome back to this edition. We're elated to chat with some of our... I guess we could make it up. Should we start over?
No, keep going. Keep going.
We're elated to be back here at a great little winery in a beautiful part of Texas, which is near Fredericksburg. We're in Johnson City. Is that correct?
Yes.
Johnson City. And our first 13 episodes were amazing. We've had so much fun doing that. But what a great time. So we're here in a beautiful location in Texas Hill Country. Right, Christopher?
Yes.
And so we're having a great time. So we're going to introduce our great guests here in a minute. And they have a great winery. It's growing. We just talked to them pregame, and we're going to have some fun talking about their vision for sure. But Will, what do you think about that?
Yeah, we're out here hanging out with, I want to try to do this correctly.
It right.
Elisa.
It's Lisa with an E.
Elisa and Elisa Christopher Winery today.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so real quick, just because we're kind of getting into this, we're going to introduce you and your roles, but we're drinking some wine right now. And Elisa, you poured us some really nice wine earlier. What are we drinking here?
So y'all are drinking the 2021 Vermentino. That is from Canton County Vineyards in La Mesa, Texas, up in the Texas High Plains.
Beautiful.
And we really think that has a lot of crisp acidity, minerality. We love what those guys are doing. And for those not watching the podcast, sorry I was talking too fast. My husband was just giving me notes that I was talking too fast.
So no video here. So yeah, we're having fun with this
That's
couple.
kind of funny because you know what? My girlfriend does the exact same thing to me. When I talk too fast, she's... Keep your hands off. Keep your hands off my leg.
Well, we appreciate that. And then what are you drinking? Who's drinking this glass of wine right here?
So I'm actually drinking the Patriarch wine, which is a 2021. It is a blend of 50% Merlot, 50% Malbec, about 75% new French oak barrels, and it's just amazing fruit. I think it's probably one of the favorite wines I've made. But
well,
I know we want to talk about that at some point.
Well, that's okay. We're just going to jump ahead real quick, and then we'll do our stuff. We have a thing called housekeeping we'll do here in a minute, but thank you, Elisa, for getting us ahead of the game. That's a beautiful thing. She's an overachiever, by the way.
But my question is, why isn't Christopher drinking anything?
Well, I think I gave my glass I was going to pour for myself to one of the customers that came in.
What a gentleman.
Well, then that means you have to get a glass.
Yes, I will have to go grab
we'll have to take a pause here. But so the 2021 Patriarch is amazing. So I saw that on your website. Ironically and coincidentally, Malbec is one of my all-time favorites. So when I saw that, I highlighted it. And good for you guys. Did you say that's one of your top sellers right now?
It is. We just released it to our club members
the
first week of March, and it is definitely a top seller. I had a gentleman in here yesterday who was like, I'm going to need, several bottles of that. I'm going to actually take it up to Dallas-Fort Worth area, show all my friends, like, this is what's happening in Hill Country.
Yahoo.
So I was pretty happy with that.
When are you coming up to Dallas-Fort Worth area?
Yeah.
I have to be invited. I don't want to just show up uninvited. That's just,
Well, the invite's automatic from our perspective.
We just gave you an invite.
Yeah.
All right.
Because we're both from that area.
Okay.
Awesome.
Well, I can be up there.
Let's zero in here real quick. Will, where can listeners find We Know Texas Vino?
Well, since your wife is not here to do that for me,
I'll she is not.
So you can find us on Facebook at We Know Texas Vino, and coming soon, our TexasVino.com website, and then on iTunes, Spotify, Pandora, Amazon Music, and wherever you listen to your podcast at.
And one of our goals is to continue to evolve with this podcasting mantra and get a 5-star rating. Is that correct? Isn't that a good thing?
That is correct.
We notice we have a bunch of 5 stars on our podcast episodes.
Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And Will, I know we reached out we looked this morning, we've hit 2,000 touches from our last podcast.
Yes.
That's amazing.
And as of right now, to this date, we have almost 700 downloads of our podcast.
That's beautiful. That's awesome. Well, good.
And we're just only touching the cusp of Texas wine.
Yep. So we're excited. Thank you, listeners. We're grateful for you. And I know that we will continue to do our job improving and getting out there and meeting some great people, which we've done today. We're in a great winery. So welcome back. Episode 14 in Johnson City. We are at Elisa Christopher Winery. Welcome, you two. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, you bet. And so, we always kind of get things going with just who are you? How did this happen? But I'll start with Christopher real quick. You're in a great location here. I'm looking out the windows here of your great little tasting room, and I'm seeing a lot of trees, and it's in a beautiful part of Texas. How did you find this place?
Well, this one, we were actually quite lucky. We'd been looking for property out here since 2020 when we moved out here. We knew that this was something that was going to be our future. Elisa's plan for retirement from the government was to open a winery out here, and was one of the conditions of us actually getting together and getting married is that I have to be willing to move to the
prenuptial.
It was a prenup.
I love it.
So it's kind of funny when things started getting serious. It's like, okay, I think this is getting serious. Here are the ground rules or the criteria.
Yeah, it could be worse though, right, Christopher? I mean,
exactly. I mean, Texas, hill country, wine,
having fun.
I mean,
yeah, that's pretty awesome.
I was like, okay, that's it. I'm like, okay, yeah, but yeah, that was literally part of the criteria.
Let me just clarify. I was living in DC at the time, and if you would have said that to any guy living in DC, they would have won a world record for running as they headed to West Virginia as fast as they could. So when he said that was it, I was like, that's
a good one. You found a good one, yeah. And so you found this property. Did someone help you find the property? You have a manager or someone out there?
Yeah, we were working with a local broker here in Johnson City, Anders Realty.
Okay,
and
shout out.
We were actually driving back from church to another winery to give them a try. And next thing I know, I look over because I make Elisa drive because I'm not a big fan of driving.
Okay.
And all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, there's a for sale sign. And next thing I know, she's locking up all 4 tires.
I think I left skid marks on the road.
And we backed up and there was a for sale sign out. And it had only been out there, I think, for a week.
Wow.
We ended up finding out. And I literally called our broker because it was with the same brokerage. And he said, oh, are you okay being that far off at 290? He said, we would actually prefer it.
Okay.
And so I want to say in about a week's time, we got it under contract and pretty much then started looking at, okay, we need to get this closed.
Yeah. So you found this property, which is pretty cool. You went through the broker, you were able to obtain it. I mean, was that painful or was that a pretty easy experience?
It was painful.
Okay.
And for us, part of it is with my background in land development on the planning and design side, I'm used to reading very detailed technical reports on property and ownership and making sure all the I's have been dotted, all the T's have been crossed. Well, when you're dealing with a lot of agricultural land that's kind of been handed down from generation to generation and title companies dealing with ag, going from ag to ag, I think a lot of steps tend to get either skipped or glossed over. So,
interesting.
I was finding that as I'm reading through reports, pages are missing, incomplete, basically property boundary descriptions. And
Yikes.
so it literally took an extra month to get that kind of nailed down.
Yeah.
Where I think most people go, oh, it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
You know, it's
and my
been
dad
recorded
also wants to go through everything with a fine tooth comb too.
And he's a rule follower.
Yes.
Is he an investor?
He is an investor, so he's kind of the third part of our partnership.
Yeah, for sure.
Inspiration, honestly, for what we've been doing.
What's your dad's name and where's he located? Where's Bob?
Bob is located in College Station, Texas.
Okay, yeah.
So,
A&M.
Yep, A&M, Aggie Land.
Yeah, Aggie Land.
Is he an Aggie?
He is. So am I, though, too.
Oh, both
so
Aggies.
third generation.
Okay.
You know?
I married into the cult that is the Aggie Nation.
And actually, we have some patrons here. They both thumbs up to Aggie Land. Are we Aggies back there as well? Wow, look at that.
So
I'm
just
some
going to
more.
say I've been a UT fan for a while.
Yeah.
My uncle was a security guard for UT for years and years and years. So
that's awesome.
I guess I'll forgive that, you know.
So,
okay,
Elisa,
good.
your dad, Bob, we've gotten very involved in that process as well. Is he an attorney or how did he interpret these things?
No, he just is. My dad was actually former military.
Okay.
And then worked at Texas A&M for a while.
Okay.
Working kind of with some of the ag extension services, and he has a vineyard in College Station. Has 4 acres of vines there, Blanc de Bois. So he does know a little bit something about growing grapes and a little bit about making wine too.
Yeah,
just a little bit.
Yeah, just a little.
Just a little bit.
Well, it's a super adventurous journey you guys are taking, and a lot of people wouldn't do it because of fears of all the fears that we have in this world. I learned years ago the number 1 fear in the world is public speaking. Number 2 fear is death. But number 3 fear, I believe, is the fear of failure. And so a lot of people will never venture out because of that situation. But here you two are doing it amazingly. But, you know, one of the coolest things as I was researching your winery and your ownership here is you guys have kind of a love story. And it's kind of fun as I learned that, you know, in fact, I think it's, and Elisa, correct me, but it's something like my love had a vineyard or something like that on your website. Yes. What is that? Is that
my beloved had a vineyard?
My beloved had a vineyard.
So I'm just going to say when she sent the email to us about the story and stuff, I read it and I'm like, man, this woman is demanding.
She knows what she wants. She just goes and gets it.
So that's easy for me. I grew up with an older sister, so I'm used to being told by strong women what to do.
Okay.
And
women of strength.
I have a hard time functioning without that kind of
He actually
maternal
told
or
me that.
even
He said, my
strong
mom used to
woman.
tell me what to do. My sister used to tell me what to do. So I'm okay.
I'll
Carry
speak
on.
up if I have an opinion, but
There you go.
otherwise, just tell me what to do.
So
Roger that.
I need a yard mowed. Can you tell me to mow my grass?
I generally mow our yard too.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I always like asking the ladies, and I don't know what it is. I just think ladies are more truthful than guys, and I'm a guy, so I understand my weakness. But tell me about the relationship and how it came back to fruition, and you reconnected. How fun was that for you?
It was really fun. And Chris will tell you, I ignored his first, I guess, Facebook request to friend me. But I'm like, I don't know who this person is. Like, at that time, fuzzy pictures and that sort of thing. Because Chris is not really one to be on Facebook or social media. He gets on there about once a year. So he had a picture. Probably it was 100 years old at the time. just about as old as he is.
It was
but,
about 10 years old.
So, I'm like, I don't know. And it was like in a ski outfit. So I don't think I think I was overseas at the time. So I just kind of ignored it. And then a few years passed and Chris reached out to me again on Facebook Messenger. Hey, I don't know if you remember me. I'm Chris Jones. We went to school together in Bellevue, Nebraska. And
Wow.
I said, oh, yeah, I remember you, kind of bullish haircut, bangs, blonde hair. I remembered him exactly.
And Nebraska, I missed the Nebraska part when I was researching. So this is
both
huge.
of our parents, both
Okay.
of our dads were stationed at Offutt Air Force Base.
And tell me where that is compared to like Lincoln or compared to Omaha.
So Bellevue, Nebraska is basically a south suburb of Omaha.
Okay,
And
gotcha.
so what's nice is like I grew up going to the College World Series
Yes.
in Omaha, and speaking of UT and even A&M, I grew up actually a UT baseball fan because I saw
I
like
know.
Roger Clemens pitch, and
They were there
and
every other
all
year in the
those
World Series.
teams going. And so
Yeah.
I fell in love with the burnt orange Cadillac with the Longhorns
See,
on
I
it,
knew I was
and I
who I
thought
liked.
that was the coolest thing in the world.
Then you also like one of my guys, Will Clark with Mississippi State. That team came through there quite often
that
as
came
well. That's
through
right.
as well. So
Yeah.
I saw a lot of the greats. But
that's cool.
So that's where we grew up together. And so what was interesting is we were in first through fourth grade together. Same teacher, same class.
And there were other teachers at the school. We just happened to be in the same class every year.
That's
And
amazing.
then we also were in Sunday school together.
Yes.
And so 6 days a week we were together. And then when our dads got our orders.
After the fourth grade.
After the fourth grade, I remember looking at my mom and asking her, am I going to be stuck with Elisa in Texas too?
That's beautiful.
And my mom was like, no, you
Okay.
are fine. And
You're-
so they ended up going to Alabama for a year.
Okay.
And I ended up in San Antonio for 2 years.
I'll be darned. Yeah. Isn't that bizarre though? And then here, and again, let's elaborate here because
Yeah.
I typed in my notes, love story, and you can call it whatever you want, but what are the odds that you guys
Yeah.
were able to reconnect? And now here you are thriving in the wine world. So I think that's a pretty cool thing. So, how did that happen? I mean, it was a Facebook post
So it
or?
was a Facebook message, and I said, I don't really use Facebook Messenger, but here's my email. So he started emailing me, and knowing what I know now that he never checks his email, never. This really was a big deal. And then, of course, he passed me his phone number, and he said, hey, if you want to chat sometime, give me a call. Well, he transposed 2 digits, so he gave me the wrong number. And, I'm in my 40s, so I just emailed him back, and I was like, hey, phone number didn't
Hello?
work, but here's my number in case you want to call me. He called me about 5 minutes after I sent the
Nice.
email. Like, he was just like on it, and
So that
he
one-
apologized.
I was very
and-
embarrassed.
That had to have been an amazing second grade year for you to be so ambitious and aggressive. That was a hell of a year.
Now, what would have been bad is the number that you transposed went to some weird phone number.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I know.
Or to another boy from the
right?
third grade.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
that's for sure.
he came out. I was living in Washington, D.C. at the time. He came out to D.C. I was having to go home from work, take a nap, and then get up to talk to him
Sure.
because he was in Arizona and there's the time
Okay.
difference.
Right.
Because we would talk on the phone. I'd have to plug my phone in. It would be fully charged. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, we've been on the phone for 5 hours. I need to plug my phone in so it can charge again.
That's awesome.
Now that we're married, I try to avoid those long calls.
Right,
It's like,
right.
Well,
yeah.
I mean,
now why is
Quick
she calling?
text, come home.
I would think you would just turn to look at her and talk to her and sit on the phone.
There you go.
Oh, yes. Yeah. No, we definitely do.
Yeah.
All the
So,
time.
well, what year did you guys reconnect face to face? And then tell us about the progression now, because here you are today, March 2023. Yes, and so
Yes.
give us a progression. When did you reconnect, and how
So
did you
that
get
was
to this point?
2019. we
Okay.
Yeah,
connected.
January of 2019.
And I had dated a lot by then. So there's kind of a gauntlet that I used to have for gentlemen candidates, as we say. And so Chris had to do an international trip with me. I was going to Israel for a work trip, and my boss said, hey, why don't you bring your then at the time boyfriend to Israel and come a week early and drive him around? You've been here plenty of times. So I said, okay. So we did.
So survived a week and the international travel, even though she almost missed the plane connection.
I
did. In Newark, my son and I were in line, and we're like starting to board, and I'm looking over to the security because they have their own security when you fly into Israel. And she's like waving. It's like, just keep going. Great. And then she basically yelled at security,
hold
my group is there, and just went on through.
That's great.
But
well, a week in Israel, though, my wife and I, my wife's actually here sitting outside, but that's one of our destination spots. We really want to go there. That must have been magical to be there, have a time to connect and build that relationship. And then you said you had your son there as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
How cool is that harmony there?
It was great.
Yeah.
The hard, believe it or not, the hard part was just the climate. So, because I was coming from Arizona, but we were actually having a really great spring and a late summer start. So I left 7-degree temperatures. And then the second day we're in Israel, she takes me in the middle of the desert, and it's 115.
Oh, mercy.
And there's no shade. And
we went to Masada, and they had closed off the hiking trails because it was so hot.
Too hot.
Right.
So we had to take kind of the tram up. And I remember him looking at me at one point. He goes, I am done here. I said, okay,
Were you
let's
dripping
go.
like me? I'd be dripping sweat. Yeah.
I was done. And so the great parents we forgot to give my son a hat. So I gave him mine and trying to keep the sun off of him.
And Chris doesn't have a whole lot of hair.
Okay.
So,
So
he
I
was
can't
getting
go without a
sunburned.
hat.
You need a
So
little bit, for sure.
I looked at her and was like, I'm done.
Yep.
And so,
I feel you on the hair.
and then from there we went to the Dead Sea, and so got
That's
to
cool.
But then we
cool
went to an
of it.
Israeli winery, too.
Yes.
Oh, fun.
And so that was the first,
Okay.
I'd say, it seems like all of our trips now revolve around wine. And
Of course.
So that one, of course, did as well. And
So that was like a moment, though. That was like, you started to think of the hierarchy, but that was a moment where
So
you're like,
that was
this
the
is
moment.
cool.
And then I was moving back to Texas. And so Chris and his son kind of came along, and we drove my car full of all kinds of stuff that, of course, you think you need, but you don't need right away, but you think you have to have it. And we drove from D.C. to Austin.
Wow.
But what we skipped was the second gauntlet I had to go through, which was
Sorry about that.
a harvest in College Station in July
For her dad.
So I
for
went
Bob.
from 110 dry heat of Arizona, actually probably 115 at the time, to probably 95 degrees and 99% humidity
Yep.
in a vineyard. And basically from 6 a.m. till 7 p.m.
Wow.
harvesting and processing grapes.
Right.
All those Gulf
Checklist.
Coast vineyards
Yeah.
are really humid when
Yes.
they have harvest, and it was miserable. In fact, my dad's best friend came along in the gator because he was picking up grapes at the time and goes, hey, that young man of yours, you need to make sure you marry him. I said, well, I probably will if he asks. you
Nice,
know.
nice.
He survived it.
And you worked hard, and you made an impression.
That was the gauntlet. So
I definitely understand that. I used to do hay out in Waco.
Okay.
And so, July, August, we're out there bucking hay and put on the trailers and stuff. Yeah, I definitely know what that heat's all about.
Yeah, you sweat it out.
Long
and let me tell you, after 20 years in Arizona, you get 10% humidity. That's humid for me.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, what you don't know is I grew up for a time in my life in Arizona, up in Sedona, Flagstaff.
Oh, yeah.
So I tell people all the time, I can go hiking at 105 degrees in Arizona. You get here in Texas, man, it is tough to get out and do that. So it's so humid, especially.
5 here is like 9 trillion.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, cool. Well, so then, so I continue to go through this journey of yours. So you met, you're in Austin now, you're doing your thing. How did this come to fruition?
Well, so what was interesting is, she moved out here in August of 2019. And then my son and I, we ended up moving out here January 1st of 2020 and got him in school. And I ended up keeping the same company I was with, just in their Austin location. And we had our wedding planned for March 28th.
Good time of year. Nothing big came along at all.
Nothing big came along.
2 weeks before that, our son gets sent home and was told, don't come back because of COVID.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
And
so-
we were actually doing our wedding reception not far from where our winery is today.
Okay.
Yes.
That was
Wow.
kind of the plan.
And so we went from COVID shutting down the world, and 2 weeks later, wait, this is supposed to be our wedding.
Right.
And so what was interesting about that, we were supposed to have about 110 guests, and I kept saying, God, I wish we could have it smaller.
Right.
We went to 7, including us.
You went to 7?
To 7 people.
7
Wow.
people total.
Total. And that was including us, the minister, her dad,
That's beautiful.
and his best friend and his wife. And
That's the way to do it. But you proceeded. You said, the heck with this. We're getting married.
Yes.
This is what we're doing.
We waited long enough. We knew what we wanted.
Yes.
And both of us said, let's just go on.
Yeah.
And so, and at that point, I said, okay, this has been a whirlwind year. Can we slow things down just a little?
Yeah.
And she was like, by all means. I want to say it was about a month later. I was like, wow, we have all this extra free time because of COVID.
We're
Let's
both
start
working
making
from home.
wine.
Nice.
And we knew that was going to be the retirement plan
Yeah.
was to make wine. He said, why don't we just see if we can get started now?
Right.
And so,
What a perfect time to do it, though. You think about it.
yeah, I mean, we literally had an extra hour and a half, 2 hours of our day. You know, school was getting done a little earlier because it's basically truncated down because you're not going between classes. So our son was getting done with school relatively quickly.
Like at 1 o'clock or something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's like, wow, we had a lot of what felt like a lot of free time. And so we ended up calling up some friends and it's like, look, this is something I think we want to try this year. Just do a small lot and see how it goes.
And by small lot, we said, let's see if we could get 3 tons of Merlot,
Wow.
3 tons of Malbec, and 3 tons of, I said 3 tons of Tannat. And they said, oh, there's a lot of Tannat was lost this year, and other stuff's contracted out, but we can get you some Aglianico. I said, okay, that sounds great. Let's do that.
But mind you, we thought 3 tons total originally.
Oh, 3 tons total. I just
Well, he
did the
thought
math.
that.
I just did the math.
I thought
So-
that.
So you had 12 tons?
Oh, wow.
So we ended up with 9. Wow.
9?
Nine.
A little over 9 tons.
Okay, yeah.
Of grapes.
Wow. So it's time to get busy.
So it was. So I had called up John Rivenberg, who has kind of a wine incubator. And so that was just a great way for us to get started because you kind of help, pay him a fee to use some of the equipment.
Yeah, and he mentors you
And he
kind of through the
mentors you to make
process with
sure
all his
that,
experience, which is great.
You're not doing something that you shouldn't be doing.
Right.
I mean, I'd done the winemaking courses through Texas Tech, but never made red wine on my own. So that was a first for me.
Okay, that's cool. And then what a great experience. So I'm just doing the math here. It's about 2020, maybe June, July, August.
Yes.
Beautiful. So I just want to kind of recap it all. But you guys are here now. Obviously, great relationship. It's so ironic how you guys got back together, right? And so when did you know? When did you know you wanted to purchase land in this area? And when did you know that you were in the hunt for that and you were ready to pull the trigger on that?
So I would say I wanted to purchase land, probably 2017.
Okay.
So before Chris and I got together.
Sure.
And he and I had talked about it. We actually talked about layouts for wineries and how things could flow. Chris being a land planner, any property you go look at, he's like, we can make things happen this way and that way. And
I was
really
making
has a
sketches
vision.
while we were
and
walking the
Sweet.
property.
That's so good to have.
and so we knew when we said, hey, we're going to go ahead and pull the trigger and start making wine this year, 2020, we need to find property.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually started looking probably 2019, right before knowing that this was the plan. And then 2020, we're like, okay, no, pedal to the metal. We need to find something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we hired our broker in 2020.
For 2020,
Yeah.
okay.
And we knew we didn't want to be on 290. And some people might say, why do you not want to be on 290? When Chris and I go to wineries, we go to ones off the beaten path.
Right.
Yes.
We like it to be quieter. It gives you an opportunity to talk to either the winemaker or the owners or both, depending on where you're going.
And we really wanted to feel, when we build this out, to feel like you're coming over to our house.
Right.
Almost for like a dinner party or a picnic, so that
More intimate, right?
it's an intimate,
Yes.
and that you're part of the family, your friends, and that it's not a restaurant on 290.
Right.
You're coming into our home and we're sharing with you
Yes.
what we love.
That's
which
almost
is the
more
wine.
he said
commercialized.
eventually.
Yeah.
So if you
Yeah.
come now, we have a
Eventually.
very small tasting room.
I was going to ask, where's the bed at?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Where's the kitchen at? 'Cause I don't see neither one of those right now.
Yeah. So cool. So you're here now. You found the land. Dad got involved. You invested. You're here. Your vision is to clear and grow and do those sort of things. So one of the things I noted on your website is you guys are 100% Texas wines, correct?
Yes, we are.
That is cool. And then is your vision to be 100% estate and win?
We will still augment with fruit from High Plains. So we will always be 100% Texas. But I think fruit diversity is very important in this state. In fact, I think I was listening to one of your earlier podcasts where somebody had mentioned there was not enough fruit in Texas. I will say that's not the case.
You disagree.
You need to diversify your sources, and you need to make friends all over the place.
Yes.
Just like you do with anything else, you can't move a refrigerator by yourself. You got to have friends to move it. And so you got to be able, when you're winemaking, is to have different friends that says, hey, I know of this here. And you also have to be willing to pivot.
Yes.
And say, yeah, I know I really prefer making these type of varietals, but now I have the opportunity to make something else. Well, what can I do with it? Got to use your imagination and say, I always jokingly said I would never make Sangiovese example in Texas. This year I bought 3 tons of Sangiovese. I have it.
You pivoted.
Yeah, I pivoted.
Yeah.
And I'm actually, that was some really great quality fruit that came in.
Yeah.
It was from Electman Vineyards out in the High Plains area.
High Plains.
And I'm really excited for it. So I think as long as you're willing to just move and pivot and just not be kind of stuck in a rut,
right.
You'll be fine.
Right.
Good for you.
You might
You've
not
also-
get as much as you want, but you're still going to make wine.
Yeah.
Right.
We've also experienced, just with her father's vineyard, we lost the entire crop to hail. If we were doing 100% estate,
Yes.
there goes a whole
Yeah.
The whole year's worth of, yeah.
vintage. And so
Good
being
call.
able to kind of have diversity of sources so that we maintain those relationships, even when we grow. I mean, even when we end up growing, we probably won't even use everything, and we'll sell off some of that.
Right.
And so, but the idea is just to kind of have that diversity.
And I think a lot of vineyards do that. When they have too much that they don't have, that they don't use, they end up selling off.
Right.
Exactly.
And we're, in North Dallas, so we kind of really specialize in that North Texas atmosphere. It's super friendly, a lot of collaboration there. Everybody's helping each other out. Would you agree that's also kind of in this area that's happening?
100%.
Or are you building that? Maybe you're building that mindset.
100%.
Yeah, it's well established here.
Okay, well
I would
established
say.
cooperation. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we bought a press from another winery when they were upsizing.
Perfect.
We work with John Rivenberg at Kerrville Hills with their co-op.
We've heard that name a couple
everyone
times
is
now. Yeah.
very cooperative, and it's nice that, you'll see people posting either on Facebook or social media. It's like, hey, this happened, or I have a stalled fermentation, and everyone will chime in and say, well, hey, have you tried this? Or, hey, I'll come on over and we'll run some, analysis on it. And
Wow.
if you're not, one of the things that on this journey I've learned, if you're not learning from everyone else,
absolutely.
you're doing yourself a disservice, because one of the things that I saw, it was even in a documentary called Decanted, and they're following this one pretty well-known winemaker. He says, hey, I've been doing this for 40 years. And I'm like, that's a good career. And then he said, but that only means I've done this 40 times.
And that's when he started freaking out about having a winery. But
Yeah, right.
That is when
You're gonna start creeping in.
moving to Texas, getting
Right.
married, none of that bothered me. But finding out, wait, I'm only going to have a handful of attempts at
Opportunities,
this.
yeah.
And I talked to my coworkers, we only had 40 tries at doing it. I get more than 40 tries on one project a lot of times doing design, let alone in a career.
Wow.
But I'll say,
What a great point.
even give another example of how collaborative it is. I actually had some barrels coming in from France. They got delivered to another winery, and Ben Calais called me one morning. I was getting ready to take my son to school, and he said, hey, you want me to go move your barrels over to your storage place? I said, sure, that would be really awesome. That would help me out today because Chris was out of town for work, and I said that would just save me a trip over here
Very
to
cool.
do it. So he moved the barrels for me, and
he offered that. It wasn't you. Yeah, he just did that because
he
of
just
the
offered to help.
Yeah.
That's crazy, because this is probably one industry now that I figure that you can't be too prideful.
No.
Right. But there is that still, competition as well. You
friendly.
still,
That's
it's
healthy, though.
friendly,
That's
right?
healthy.
It is healthy. And nobody, I think, in Texas making wine wants anybody to make a bad wine. Everybody
Exactly.
wants us to all,
Yes.
we want to all succeed.
Yeah,
sure.
That's probably one of the things I love about Texas wine and the industry, because everybody helps everybody out. We have
Yes.
not come across anybody that says, I refuse to help somebody.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Sort
Well,
of
that's
like
cool.
the Great British Baking Show, where someone's in a jam and someone goes over to help them. That's what it's like here.
Cool.
If someone gets in a jam, they don't want them to fail.
Right.
They really want people to make a good
I think
product.
when you win across the board in any industry, or sports or whatever it is, I think it's healthy for the environment. It's healthy for the people. It's healthy for the economy. It's a good thing.
It is.
And so you guys are just experiencing that in a different avenue of your life.
Exactly.
Oh, good for you guys. Well, that's cool. Well, I'm glad it's already ingrained in this community because we're getting used to this area, right?
Yeah.
We're learning about this area. We've been here many times, but we're just learning about the area. But that's pretty cool. That's established.
And that's one of the reasons why we wanted to come down here is we wanted to kind of, hate to say it this way, stab our way into this because we're up in the North Texas area. And so we know a lot of the winemakers and the vineyards up there, but we don't know anybody down here. And so that's why we wanted to come down here and start talking to the winemakers and y'all to just kind of get a foothold down here so we can start introducing to everybody in North Texas what Fredericksburg Hill Country area has to offer.
Yeah, we've had over 100 wineries reach out to us to come here. So I'm really excited to be here because you guys are so much fun and you are so spirited and you obviously have a great vision. But so it's family owned, 43 acres you guys purchased.
Yes.
That's a lot of room. What are you going to do with all that, Christopher?
Yeah, it's interesting. I always, joke with people at work. It's like, if I don't have constraints, it's hard to come up with a design. Well, this site doesn't have very many constraints. So I've been struggling with laying it all out, but we do have a plan. We know that we'll probably have about 12 to 14 acres under vine.
Excellent.
But when you think about it, that's only a quarter, less than half of the site. So, what do you do with the rest of it? And really, for the most part, the soils throughout the property are great.
Okay.
We only have a couple little areas where they're not conducive, and that's where we're going to be putting our buildings. And so that's kind of the northeast corner and the southeast corner. And then the rest, like I said, we kind of want this to feel like you're coming over eventually to our home and to that kind of barbecue picnic atmosphere where it's not stuffy or rigid. And so part of that is going to be keeping a lot of open space. We have kind of a natural riparian area where when it rains, you get a little bit of a creek that flows. We want to leave that more natural, but make it more accessible. We'll limb up some of the trees, but still leave the trees there. And that will kind of provide that more natural area and people can go for walks if they want. We plan on having our main production facility when you drive in just there and a main tasting, what we call a house.
Right.
And it will be pretty much laid out and designed like a home. So it feels like you're not in this rigid environment, but more of a place where you can kind of mingle around and then basically have the biggest backyard that you can have.
A serious backyard.
So that you can just literally hang out and just kind of sit by the patio.
You said about maybe even walking trails. And did you say that earlier? Was that, that was something
so
cool.
we want to do some walking trails through here. And, I've taken Chris to a number of different wineries outside of the state, a lot inside the state, but outside of the state, just for the architectural design piece and to look at how things were laid out, how things were done. I mean, since he does more master plan communities, he has a vision for that. And I'm really bad about explaining it, but I can show him this is what I mean. And so he's able to take that then and kind of translate into work for this property.
And then we have a lot of environmental aspects that we want to be able to do on the property. We want to kind of treat all of our own wastewater on site. We want to harvest all of the runoff and actually use that for the irrigation, really only use the wells for supplemental purposes and then also for potable services. That would be but really kind of capturing it all, treating it all, taking care of it, and then pumping that back into the aquifers and then using it for the vines. And so that we're a little less of a footprint. We even talk about getting solar out there just for both energy conservation, just to make sure we don't lose product if there's a power outage.
So I said on our first production facility that's being built right now on the other end of our property, which we'll show you guys after the podcast, we wanted to make sure that when the building goes up that it can handle the weight of the solar panels. We said we won't be able to put them on right away, but that is our eventual goal, is to how can we kind of reduce our footprint, do things just more
efficiently, and you're thinking about it. You're way ahead of the game. That's pretty amazing. But ironically, my next notes were I put climate, elevation, soil. Who's the geologist? Right? You guys have obviously put some effort into this and some thought, which is pretty cool. And I admire you for doing that because you're capitalizing on the beautiful land you have, but you don't want it to go away. You want to be able to revitalize and keep it sustainable.
So when we purchased this, we actually sent soil samples to Texas A&M Soil Science Center so that we could get various parts of this property tested so we could understand a little bit more about our terroir here and where we wanted to go with it.
Terroir. That's
I love that word.
Yeah.
Terroir. I love that word. I mean, I don't know why I love that word.
That's a great word. It just means climate.
Yeah.
It means, I would say it's a little more than climate. It's like your soil, your climate, the
I wrote
environment.
soil, yeah. It's everything.
It doesn't translate well
Elevation.
in English, but it's kind of this all-encompassing, yes, elevation's included in that, like all-encompassing things that go into what makes your wine.
Very
you take
cool.
2 grapes and go one from California and one to Florida, and there'd be 2 totally different grapes because California warms up during the day and cools off slowly at night, while Florida warms up really quick and then cools off really quick.
What does Texas do?
She doesn't know yet.
Okay. Well, Texas is pretty cool.
It depends on the day of the week.
Yeah, it depends on the day of the week,
Yeah.
But, I really commend y'all on everything you are doing out here because, I mean, obviously you got to come out with a plan when you're making a winery and doing a vineyard and stuff. And both y'all have a plan, have a vision, and you have a game plan. And both y'all have some sort of experience in doing a little bit of everything. And y'all pushing for that. And I really commend y'all for doing that.
Well, it's not a passive effort either. You guys are very intentional, aren't you? I can tell. Very, especially you. I'm pointing at Elisa. You're extremely intentional. And my wife and I, we
don't let Chris kid you.
I get it. He's a very intelligent man. I get that. But you're just got this little spirited thing going on. So, but we're very intentional. And if you're not intentional, whether it's a business venture or whatever, we're entrepreneurs. So we appreciate that mindset anyways. And so good for you guys for just doing it, tearing it up and making something happen, which is pretty awesome.
And I think really making wine in general, but making wine in Texas, you have to love it. You can't just say, oh, I want to go be a winemaker and take all these pretty pictures of you like posing in front of barrels. And, you have to have a passion for it and a drive because it is not going to be perfect.
Right.
It's going to kick your butt a few times.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
You're dealing with weather, climate, just Mother Nature and growing things.
I had to say Mother Nature because Mother Nature's just, that's it.
We hear that from every winemaker. It's the one thing, there's you just let it go.
Well,
you gotta,
I will bring this up. And again, it's Grayson again, So Grayson, if you're not familiar with him, he actually has been doing a testing out there with, what was it? What was the encapsulation they're doing on the?
What they're doing is they're protecting the vines with like this
fruit.
Covering, yes,
and some sort of not silicone. I can't even remember what it's called.
I call it like a cocoon.
Yeah,
they cocoon it. Yeah.
That it would protect it from the first freeze.
It's a big study they're doing out of, I think it's out of Oklahoma maybe, but they chose a couple wineries, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and they're actually going global now, and they're testing down. I think the last time we checked was in South America,
Brazil,
but
Argentina.
It encapsulates the fruit, so that way that first freeze comes through, so it doesn't kill it, and then it's biodegradable, so it doesn't hurt anything. It falls off on the ground, you don't see it. It falls off the ground. It doesn't hurt, change the flavor of the grape or anything.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so do you guys get freezes throughout this community as well? I mean, is that something you're worried about? Right?
Yeah.
I think last weekend they initially had snow in the weather forecast, and now it's 85 degrees. But that didn't happen. It didn't get. I laughed. I said, "Hey, early in the week they called for snow, and last Sunday it was like 70 degrees." So
that's crazy, ain't it?
It's Texas. It's always going to change.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that might be something to look into. If you want to know more about it, just reach out to Grayson out at RK up in North Texas.
Yeah, we'll send that information.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to use a sports analogy here next for my next question. And this is really for Christopher. And he's the one who brought it up because he grew up in Omaha. And so my son played baseball in Omaha a couple times, and we went and watched the UCLA Bruins one year. We win one year there. It was pretty cool. But Roger Clemens, who was a Texas boy, right? He played I think University of Texas. I think he lives in Texas maybe. But a lot of people argue that he should be in the Hall of Fame. And maybe he shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. So we have all these differing views of Roger Clemens in baseball. My question is, where is Texas going with the wine industry? And we've heard so many different views of that. What's happening with Texas?
I was going to ask, what does Roger Clemens have to do with wine?
Because I wanted to use that diversity of thought.
I was about ready to go in 20 minutes on whether he should be in the Hall of Fame or not.
Because Christopher's a baseball fan, as am I. And so, because, should he be in the Hall of Fame? Probably should be in the Hall of Fame. I don't know. That's an argument. But where's Texas? Elisa, what do you think? Where's Texas right now? And what's happening with this great industry?
So Texas is growing. Texas is also getting better in winemaking. We've come a long way from where we started. And I mean, every vintage keeps getting better and better. The wineries keep growing. And I think that's a good thing. I mean, Texas is great in that we have such a large state. There does not need to be one grape for Texas. We can do so many grapes. France, there's no one grape for France.
Right.
You know, it depends on where you
Right.
are as to what they grow.
Just compare the size of Texas and France.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because we talked to Clay this morning, Clay and Josh, and the first thing they brought up is like, we're as big as France. Texas is big.
Yes.
And don't just say we have one grape. There are many different
so
areas of
many.
grape,
Yes.
21 varietals that we're aware of here in Texas. So it's pretty cool.
What's interesting, a lot of times we like to tell people that Texas today is probably where Napa was in the 60s.
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting.
And I say that a lot
I like to hear
because
that.
my dad was in Napa in the 60s going to vineyards there. His dad was military. He went to high school about 20 minutes away in the 60s. And so he talked about going to vineyards there. And so, you know, growing up and listening to those stories, I'm like, yeah, that's exactly where Texas is. And, you know, we don't need to be the next California. We don't need to be the next this. We're Texas.
Yeah.
That's all
I
we
love
need to
it.
be.
We're our own
A
place.
pride thing.
Yes.
So we talk about the pride of Texans and the glory of being a Texan, that
Yes.
sort of thing. But we should be our own identity, right? We don't need to
Yes.
compare to Napa or Washington
Exactly.
or Oregon or Virginia or any of those places. This is Texas.
Yep.
What's interesting is you start looking at just what are winning double gold medals, gold
Yep.
medals, and in San Francisco international competitions. Texas is taking more
Correct.
than their fair share.
Correct.
You know, I'm
Absolutely.
And
just
beating out some of the bigger, what you would consider wine
Yeah.
regions. And, you know, a lot of that comes from that Texas pride of, no, we're not only as good as everyone else, we're better than most.
Oh, I love it. You guys have a great
So,
attitude about that.
What I love about Texas winning gold in California is that it's kind of like we're shoving their face in the mud and like,
Bill, I'm not gonna edit that. Not gonna edit that.
Anything you can do,
We just like
I
all
can
of
do
our
better.
California listeners. Thank you very much.
I love California wine, and
Sure.
if I want a California wine, I'm going to drink that. But it comes back to, I think, sometimes a perception that people outside of Texas do have still of Texas.
Yes.
And in fact, there's an Instagram posters here, a wine guy. He writes a lot about just wine in general, and he was talking about Texas winning in these gold medal competitions lately.
Yep.
Okay.
And there was a gentleman who has a California winery who commented, and he said that he lives in Texas, and he said, well, all Texas wines are just over oaked, this, that, and the other. So I was curious. I went to his website, and I said, interesting, because every one of his wines was oak too. So I don't quite
call him
know
out
where.
on that?
I did not.
Where is that? Yeah.
you should have called it
I
out.
was,
Lisa,
I was
if there's
super
one
angry
person
at the
I've met-
time, so I thought, I went back to
If
my
there's
mother's.
one person I've met who would take the obligation to go talk to that gentleman via email or whatever, it would be you. So that's awesome.
Well, I said, I go back to my mother's. You can't say something nice. Don't say
Okay.
anything at all.
That's
so,
very sweet.
This is wine, and when it comes to
It
wine
is
and
wine.
Texas wine and with California wine, you call the California people out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I figure, he'll learn one day, right?
Eventually.
Well, what's interesting, we were just talking about the terroir is different.
Yes.
Our climate is
That's
different
right.
here.
Yes.
The taste is different. Just like taste in France is different. The taste in Italy is
Yep.
different. And we want it to be that, well, only the great American wines are coming from California. No. Great wine can really be anywhere,
Yeah.
including Texas.
That's right.
It's just the terroir is different here.
Yes.
It's different in California.
Sure.
So people will search out now Texas wine because of that flavor profile, as opposed to, well, only good wine comes from somewhere.
That was actually like the most mature thing that we've heard all day right there. That was pretty good. Where'd that come from, Christopher?
I'm done for the day.
That was actually like
I can
a
go home now.
legitimate
You
mature
roped him in with the
statement.
sports analogy.
No mic drops on here. Okay. So
I
drop the
love it.
mics. Okay.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we have a few minutes left, and we just want to touch on a couple more subjects. But one of the things on your website, you have great appreciation for the farmers on your website, and we actually brought this up with our last podcast because I had done some research, and I didn't use your guys' name because I wanted to honor them and make sure I showcase what they had going on. But that's really cool. And I told this other winery that we're going to another podcast today, and they have this amazing appreciation for the farmers. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? Why is that, and why is that such an important part of what you have going on here?
So when my ancestors came over from Germany, they came to Texas, and I'm sure they thought, what on earth did I get myself into? They came here in the winter. Probably thought it
mercy.
was just a mild winter.
Yeah.
They were farmers in Germany. They farmed in Texas. My grandfather was picking cotton in the Brazos Bottom for years before he
Wow.
went to Texas A&M and kind of helped work himself through. I have cousins that are in the cotton farming industry. My grandfather on my father's side, completely different. He had a big citrus orchard down in the Rio Grande Valley. So kind of grew up all in the farming community.
Very cool.
And of course, I always said I never want to be a farmer because I knew how much work it was. Yet here we are getting ready to plant a vineyard, and I'll go be a farmer on this side. But I guess it's a selective farming.
Go ahead and say it, Chris.
Yeah, I like to tell people there was a greater chance of me being an astronaut than a farmer. And
So are you an astronaut now?
it's like I keep hoping. It's like maybe I can still figure out how to get a plane, a ticket to space. But I am going to end up being a farmer. And
Good for you.
Of all the things, this is definitely going to be the toughest part.
Yep, hard work. And
It
what
is hard work, and you have to just be willing to get out there and do it. I've helped my dad prune his vineyard for years, and it is sad. Like this year, because of hail damage followed by a freeze, we had to cut off tremendous amount of cordons. There were 2 rows. We had to cut all the way to the trunk.
Wow.
And so, I always will say, when I make a wine, sometimes my blood, sweat, and tears are in that wine, and that is simply because of all the work either that we did or, understanding what somebody else went through to particularly make that wine.
That's so cool.
I have to ask a question then. So if there's blood, sweat, and tears in my wine, is that why it's
That's
That's why it tastes so good.
The alcohol kills
That's why it
all the
tastes so
germs.
good.
Don't worry about it.
You don't want to know about those great big caterpillars from the high plains, do you?
Beautiful. Well, we're here at a great little, you guys built this great location here. It's a fun little tasting room. So if I come back in 5 years, what can I expect? I know there's some great things happening. I know that's a big one, but as we kind of wrap it up and talk,
5-year plan.
the 5 year.
How Christopher took a big
sigh. It was a sigh.
No, he took a deep breath because he's like, okay, I'm going to talk about for the next 5 years in 5 minutes.
Or maybe it's because he's so passionate about it. That's what I like.
Passionate and scared.
Yeah, for sure.
So the 5-year plan is, this summer we'll have what we're calling the sparkling barn completed. And that's where it's kind of grown, or what we like to call scope creep, where it started off as a tractor barn and has now turned into full-on production for both stills and sparkling wine.
Very cool.
And then we'll have all that equipment moved in this summer so that we can handle our harvest this year.
And we are going to make traditional method sparkling wine here.
Wow.
Start to finish. With all the equipment. We have that on order from France right now.
How many folks do that in this
Repeat
area?
that again. You're going to do what again?
Traditional method sparkling wine. So the French would call it champagne. We're not in Champagne.
Right.
So
Method
we
champagne
have to
wine.
call it traditional method sparkling.
Wow.
So we're right now. So the whole
Ambitious.
design was around being able to do that, to bring in equipment to do all the riddling, do the freezing of the necks, and all the disgorging and all
We
that
learned
stuff.
about that. We were out at the Hidden Hangar or somewhere. We learned about that.
So when you get ready to do that, let me know when you're done with that. And I want to bottle that to test it out before you sell it to the public.
All right.
Because I know my girlfriend loves sparkling wine.
How about this?
Champagne.
I got one better. You can come help us disgorge
That's
and
the
dosage.
first
That's what I
batch.
thought he was asking for.
Now, we didn't ask that part.
That's what I thought he was
We
going
just
to do.
need safety goggles. The machine does it. With the goggles, you shouldn't lose an eye. So maybe a finger.
When you plan on doing this?
Well, we have a batch that we're seeing what's happening with it now. It was a little fickle to start, but again, this is Texas, so sometimes you have to be patient. That's not really a virtue I possess much of. So either we'll do it this year or next year. So we have all the fruit next year coming in as well.
If you give me an advance notice, I'll come down and help.
All right.
I'll come out.
That would be
Sounds
awesome.
like a
Will's a
plan.
hard worker. That's right.
I mean, he's right. I am
I
a
might
hard
even
worker.
come down. That sounds kind of fun, actually. So, yeah.
I don't think he's a hard worker, though.
But it does look like we'll be, if not the first, one of the first to have all the equipment.
All the
Right.
equipment.
In
People
the
have been
state of
doing it,
Texas.
but it's just having all the equipment.
If you definitely give us a heads up, give me a heads up, shoot us an email and say, hey, we're ready to do all this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll figure
bring
out
an
what time to
Yeah, perfect.
Bring an army of people. That'd be pretty cool. Well, cool.
I don't see the look on my face when he said bring an army. I'm just looking at him.
Well, I saw it. I have great peripheral still. I'm an old ball player.
So that's, I guess, would be year one. And then
Yes.
as things progress and grow, what I have envisioned up through year 5 is by year 5, we'll have what we'll call our permanent tasting room. And so we're still working through the design on that. But
Will that
the
be right here?
So
or?
no, this will be basically when you drove in onto the property, to the right would be vines and the sparkling barn off to the corner. To the left, in amongst the oaks that we have there, would be our what we're calling our first phase or tasting room.
Okay.
And so we're looking at hopefully around 3,000 square feet.
Wow.
But different experiences in that. but more living room style, dining room style than it would be, let's say, restaurant. And the idea is that we'd have some private seating areas for private tastings, and then like what I like to call harvest table, where you can sit about 10, 12 people at and have a group come in and do a tasting, whether you come in together or come in separately.
Cool.
And we like that because we've met some really interesting people doing tastings like that. And, you know, some people that we still call friends, it's like, oh, we met over wine and a table. So
that's a beautiful thing. Yeah.
And then behind that, probably at the end of year 5 will be our first full production building. Will go there.
Larger production.
That will be awesome. That will be awesome.
And so be about 3 times the size, well, double the size of what we'll have ready. And then depending on cash flow, how things are going, we might have a wedding venue in that 5-year plan as well.
Wow,
but
that's
that would be probably at the end.
Oh, Lisa's smiling. Look at her. She's excited about that plan.
I'm excited for all of it.
Yeah.
So,
You know,
It's an adventure.
anytime you get something like that planned up, you know, and you want to plan it up like that, you get excited. Like, you know, I'm ready to move this now. But you know you can't do it now. You got to.
Yes.
You got to be patient.
I feel like I'm planning a mission to Mars, and it's
Right.
taking how long? So that's what it feels like. It's like maybe our son will be able to finally build the last building, kind of a deal.
That'd
Exactly.
be cool. I got you. Yeah.
But it's pretty awesome what y'all are doing here.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you guys so much. So real quick, any final thoughts before we kind of move on to our educational portion? Any thoughts, Elisa, you want to share with us? I mean, please promote yourself.
I would say, you know, I'm really glad you guys are doing podcasts to help promote Texas wines, because the more we get out there, the better we become. And we just give other people, you know, not only in Texas, but around the world, the opportunity to show what Texas can really do.
True.
And we do get touched around the world because we got people in Germany and Japan and New Zealand listening to us.
Yeah.
I mean, I think about it. Most foreigners, they think of Texas as a destination because the cowboys and just like we have such a personality being Texans. And
Don't mess with Texas.
I mean, people think about, you know, you kind of hit the coast, but if you're not hitting Disneyland or Disney World, Texas seems to be the next place people want to see.
All right.
Yep.
And it's nice to be able to show more than just, you know, cowboys and horses and oil, you know, and oil. But it's like, no, you know, all the agriculture, all the wine.
In fact, we've had international folks in our tasting room, and all my international travel has been helpful in understanding kind of what their flavor profiles tend to be.
Awesome.
So, I mean, it's really kind of come full circle.
Yeah, you two are totally equipped to make this happen big time. We're compliments across the board to you guys. So, Elisa, how can people reach out to you folks? How can they reach? What's our physical location, as well as how can we find you online?
Sure. We are located in the Texas Hill Country in Johnson City, between Sandy Road and Southold Vineyards. So it may seem like you're coming really far off 290, but you're really not. So our address is 1851 Ranch Road 2721 in Johnson City. And then you can also find us on social media, Elisa Christopher Wines. We are both on Instagram and on Facebook. And then you can also look us up on the internet, www.elisachristopherwines.com. So probably should have made that a little shorter.
I tried to make it longer, but I couldn't get any more letters into it.
You know, it's kind of funny because we were at Deshane a couple weekends ago, and, you know, because Deshane is DESCHAIN.com. Well, she changed it to, what was it? findwine.com or
something, or fun wine or something like that. We have it written down. Yes. So,
or then like Bingham actually did, because Bingham is Bingham Family and Winery or something like that. And they changed it to Bingham.wine. And I literally had to pull it up to see that.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. Well, we are grateful for you guys. So we're going to wrap up our segment number 1. We're going to do a short little educational portion afterwards. But Christopher, any last words from you, my friend?
No, I'm actually pretty good. Like I said, I'm kind of along for the ride on this journey. White knuckled, holding on to the oh crap bar, and
don't white knuckle.
You know. I think you're being modest because it's obvious that your vision is legit and that your experience is going to contribute big time to the success of your family as well as the success of your winery. So we're proud of you. Excited for you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, well, we'll be back in a minute. We'll be back for our educational portion here in a moment.
We'll be right back.
All right, cheers.
Thanks.
Greetings, We Know Texas Vino lovers. This is your host, Will, and I have some exciting news to tell you. Are you looking for a new winery or wanted to find where the next wine event is going to happen? Well, I have some amazing news for you that will help you in your search. It is called the Texas Wine Lover app. You can either go to their webpage at texaswinelover.com or you can download their app off of any app store. Now, Jeff and Amy has worked hard to provide you with everything you need to know about finding a new winery or events in the state of Texas. There are tons of features and options on their page to make your wine drinking or your wine trip a huge success. Go check them out either on Facebook or on their website, and tell them that Will and Michael from We Know Texas Vino sent you. Cheers.
Welcome back, everyone. We are just having a great time here, episode 14, and we're going to do some education.
Why'd you have to soften like that for?
Well, I don't know, but I'm so excited about it because we're here with Christopher and Elisa, and we're going to have a good time talking about something that's very important to me. And we've been to several wineries, Will, small ones even.
Yeah.
How do you start a vineyard and winery? And so we're two perfect people here today. I think perfect because I'm looking outside this beautiful land they have here. Christopher, how do you start a winery? What are maybe 5 key points?
Should we be talking to Christopher about that?
Maybe we should go to Lisa. Lisa, it matters not to me.
I might scare you.
But they're probably a perfect candidate because they kind of started from grassroots. They had a vision.
Yeah.
I think it was maybe Lisa's vision early on, and then, of course, that collaboration. But, I mean, what are some of the notable and important things you have to do something like this?
First of all, have a lot of money.
Okay.
Secondly, don't quit your day job.
Go.
So
Okay.
I actually retired from mine, so we
Yes.
haven't all totally quit. And then Chris still has his day job because that's really important for the banks to know that you're dedicated and you're still going to make it.
Right.
And
There's 2 ways to finance it, either through a bank or through a really rich individual who wants to say
Inheritance or something.
So
Yeah.
they want to own a winery.
or a sugar mama.
Yes. So, we're going through the bank. We have friends that have done it the other way. So
Okay. Yeah. And so number one, have some sort of capital. You have to be able to finance it and buy land. I mean, you guys did it to me, like the fundamental way. You have a vision, you need some land, then from there you move on. But you need money to do that.
Yes.
You have to have capital.
We do.
And what are some additional things that you would consider important?
you have to be willing to work hard.
Okay.
Yes.
You cannot have a winery unless you're willing to do work on your own property. If there's a tree with a limb falling down, well, you might have come to the winery hoping to do something else that day. Yeah, take care of that because it could injure a guest. So,
Absolutely.
you have to be willing to be all hands in on every part of it. You can't just say, I only want to do this one little piece.
Right.
Unless you have a lot of money. But.
Yeah.
Right. Then you hire it out. Right. Okay.
The more money you have, the easier
I got
it gets,
you.
just
I
like
got you.
everything else. But
So following a budget and making sure you stay within those restraints, of course, but then knowing that you have additional, almost like chores every day because there's always something,
There's
right?
always something to do.
Yeah. And Christopher, what else would you say is important to that journey?
you got to have a long play for it. Got to be dedicated because that first year investment, you're not seeing a return on it for probably close to 3 years.
Yeah.
And so, and in that time, you got to keep investing for the next vintage and next vintage.
Yep.
So you're in your third vintage by the time you're selling. And so that understanding that, so that it's like, wow, I just spent all this time and money and I still don't have my widget yet.
So
all I have is money going out, no money coming in.
That youthful, immediate gratification, entitlement mindset doesn't work too well in this industry when you start.
No.
Okay, all right.
No.
So
But,
pay the price. You got to hold tight. What do we call that? I call it perseverance, maybe, or
Perseverance,
is that an
yes.
okay word for that? Yeah,
Perseverance and patience.
patience, grit.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's another one that you think of?
I think you need to have a plan.
Okay.
Don't piecemeal things.
Yep.
There are a number of wineries that drives Chris absolutely insane that he'll go to and he's like, oh my goodness, did somebody not have a plan? It looks like somebody's kid built this. And in
It's
fact,
just adding on after adding on without understanding how they were
Different
gonna grow.
colors or something like that.
flow.
Right.
And
Okay.
so-
What if that's what they wanted?
Now that is a concept.
Then that is
That
a
is a
concept.
concept.
Exactly.
But if you have proper flow, it will make things easier. So we, when we were designing our current production facility, we went to wineries in California and we said, talk to winemakers. Okay, you didn't build this. Much like in Texas, most of the people that are also the winemakers may be the owners. Out there, not the case. So you can ask them honestly, what do you not like about the way your facility
what's the one thing you like? What's the one thing you don't like?
Right,
And
that's
we were getting
smart.
questions from the type of drains in the ground to the finish on the wall. We went to this one amazing winery in California. It was immaculate. And so I asked him, what's the one thing you don't like? He's like, these walls are so nice. We're terrified of getting too close to them with the
Interesting.
forklift. So now that space got 2 feet shorter on each side. So it's now 4 feet narrow.
There's like a
because
buffer.
You want a buffer away from that wall because they don't want to scuff it. I'm like,
that's so good.
So
Great
there's
question.
that, that one was just kind of like, that was an aha.
And then actually that same trip, it was a different winery. They talked about, okay, when you're bringing your forklift around with the barrels, you don't want to like go on this very long journey. And they showed us how long it's going to take them to bring that back into the production facility so they can get ready to bottle. So it's just things to think about, and ask questions.
But pick their brains. I mean, they're the ones who've experienced it. So if you utilize that experience and that wisdom and those sort of things, and take the things you need and apply it, implement, right?
What's nice is I would say now, I guess the last point I would say is that in Texas and like in other wineries, there are opportunities to, I'm not sure if you would say dip your toe in, but to get into it with less capital by getting in with how we did it through an incubator where we're starting with a group. And essentially, instead of a big capital outlay all up front, you're doing it over months.
Yes.
And as you're investing into that group, and there are companies that also do custom crush. So you can actually work with them where they do more of it on the front end for you, but you're paying more and you're not necessarily learning as much.
Right.
But that's up to you, I think, of being more involved. But that gives you some opportunities to not have that necessary capital outlay right away.
We've heard that philosophy today. We've done 3 times, and we don't really hear it up where we're from.
Yeah.
And so today, that's the 3rd time we've heard that concept. That's interesting down here.
And that's one of the things we plan on doing with the sparkling. We've put forth the capital outlay on the sparkling.
Yep.
Yes.
That gives other people the opportunity to do a traditional method without the capital outlay to see if that's something one as their part of their product offering, and then do they make the capital outlay or do they just keep investing in someone else doing it?
So smart. That's beautiful.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So anything else, Elisa, you want to add to that? Because, starting up something like this is a major ordeal. And again, we can congratulate and, pat you on the back, but it really is impressive. So anything else you want to add to those 5 kind of points?
I would say have a plan, but don't be so wed to it that you're not afraid of modification.
Have a plan, but be able to pivot.
So like Roger Clemens, he just threw 2 straight fastballs. You got to mix in the change up a little bit, right? Even though you're a power pitcher.
So
sorry, Lisa.
No, that's
plan,
okay.
But no plan.
Yeah.
Yes, have a plan, but know that it's not going to go to your plan.
No
Mix it
plan,
up.
plan, right?
It is
Yeah.
no plan. Because so when we were starting the sparkling barn, we said, okay, it's really going to be 2/3 sparkling equipment and then 1/3 barn. And that plan has all gone by the wayside. We have expanded that before we even have the steel frame that'll go up this week.
Well, it was even supposed to start as really a tractor barn.
Yeah.
Seriously.
And then it was a tractor barn. It was just going to be a steel barn, not insulated, not climate controlled. And then we're like, well, what if we take 1,000 square feet and climate control that so that we can do a little bit of sparkling? And then we realized how much we needed in storage. Okay, now 2,000 of the 3,000 square feet was going to be that. And then her dad calls and is like, I think we don't have enough space. What if we turn the 4th part, because we're not going to be planting anything yet, so we don't need the tractor. And then so now we went to 3,000 square feet of full-on production and cold storage.
So there's a word, correct me if I'm wrong, but if we have not used this word, if we have used it, let me know. But adapting. You have to adapt to each scenario, to each season, to each unique situation, to each, something brings you, someone brings you an idea, let's adapt. Is that a proper term?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And the other thing that we've learned from everyone, even including in France and Israel, build the biggest building you could possibly afford because you'll never have enough space.
That's something we've heard also too.
So I keep asking, is like, man, I wish we could just make this bigger. Oh,
5,000.
that's right. We can't afford to make it any bigger.
Hold tight.
So but
awesome.
It is. Everyone will tell you that, but it is. Build it as
thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs down. You get a awesome couple like you guys, high energy, high enthusiasm. You have a vision. You know what you want to do. Thumbs up, just go for it. For most folks who have the finances and the plan, would you say this is a great venture for people if they're willing to do those 5 to 6 points?
If they're willing to do those, yes.
Okay. It's a sacrifice, isn't it, Elisa?
It is a sacrifice, and it's not a Monday through Friday job.
Correct.
It's during harvest. It's all the time.
You're never bored.
Yeah, you're always busy. You're never bored.
You're never bored. It's not in a good way.
Yeah.
So in other words, people who are ADHD, we don't see squirrels very often. Then
right. Well,
you see them everywhere.
But
You'll be walking through the vineyard. Oh, I need to prune that, or I need to kill that weed, and then it's like, oh, I need to tie that up, or it's like,
squirrel.
I need to mow that, or
That's funny.
oh wait, I got to label bottles, and it's like,
Well,
Never ending.
That's funny you talk about labeling bottles. So I don't remember the name of the winery that's downtown Fredericksburg. And it used to be a grocery store. As a kid, it used to be a grocery store, and I can't remember the name of it. But me and my girlfriend was in there. We had bought some wine in there, and they were talking about that they needed help labeling bottles, and they had their grandmother in the wheelchair.
Oh no,
labeling bottles.
Well, I might say we've put our 12, almost 13-year-old to work.
Yeah, absolutely.
labeling bottles, and he loves cleaning tanks. So all the other wineries out there,
tanks.
we have a 12-year-old that loves getting wet with a hose in a tank.
Straight out. I love it. Well, we're grateful for you guys.
Yeah,
And Christopher and
thank you.
Elisa, thank you for the invite. It's a great area. We have nothing but positive things to say about this experience, so we appreciate it. So, Will, as we wrap this up real quick, what's the takeaway, my friend?
So my takeaway off of this right here is that, with a little elbow grease and a little love and passion, you can make your dreams come true.
Isn't that funny that what mine is very similar? You get a couple like this, high energy, very intelligent, but with this enthusiasm, and you just have fun. So that's a compliment to you two kids. Yes, that's right, young man. And that's very cool. But you need to have that certain charm and that certain real just ambition and grit to do something awesome like this. And obviously this couple does that. So great takeaways. Well, we're excited. So we're going to wrap it up today. I have a quote for you, Will. Are you ready for the quote? For you two, I do quotes every podcast. So here goes. Try not to.
It'll make you laugh sometimes.
So this is from Plato. You guys heard of Plato?
Plato, like the
Some sort of philosopher or something like that. Yes. There is truth in wine and children. Is that not true, right? And the second one is and I like this for my wife who's back there laughing at me, right? There she is. We are all mortal until the first kiss and the second glass of wine. So Yahoo. So we're excited to be here. Episode 14. We had a great time with you two. Elisa, thank you. Christopher, thank you.
Yeah,
you guys are a tremendous
Thank
couple.
you.
We're so excited for your future. So another day.
Yeah, another $1.
Another glass of wine. Another $1. This is Michael.
This is Will.
Have a great time. Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you.